this computer. Okay, hello again, and welcome to the fourth session of Fridays for Advocacy. This time we are discussing advocacy for social change in local communities, and we are privileged to have Senad Sakipovsky from the Institute for Roma and Minorities with us to deliver a presentation or a workshop on community organizing. Senad, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for agreeing to facilitate this.
So thank you very much, Nikos, for the invitation. So I'm glad to be here, as I understand this, it's part of our mission and our work. As long as that we as youth workers or even as young people belonging to the micro region and living practically in the city, so we face a lot of advocacy issue that we have to stand as a young person. But before going to the topic, let me just give a context of how did I get involved into this youth work and civic engagement work. So I grew up in Macedonia, although now I'm living in Germany. And I remember after the Kosovo war, so 2004 in Macedonia was also affected by the war conflict. And I was living in the northern part, bordering with Serbia and the Kosovo, and my city was very much heavily affected by the civic inter-ethnic conflict that fortunately ends in after a few months. But why I'm mentioning this context practically is that time I assume this one of the main target groups on the inter-ethnic programs that appeared that time, and practically we as a young people we should be the social makers and the new generation of practically the intercultural dialogue that should bring, especially in the local context. And that time, many programs appeared that targeted young people. Also, schools were also part of that, and this is the way how I got involved in this civic engagement work. And I was then a high school student in gymnasium, and with a few our peer students. So I can say that we were much active in the after school program rather than the regular school program. But so that resulted that afterwards we practically, finishing the formal education, they got us in the field that all of us we are working today. So coming back to the topic of this workshop, so it turns to be that Fridays is Advocacy Day, and I'm glad that Inter Alia in a role several Fridays practically is organizing these advocacy events. And I would like to share my experience practically is in social change in the very micro level in local community. So I will just briefly introduce the concept of community organizing, that you might find that in the theory it differs from the advocacy, and it's not that innovative and so on, but it's very practical. It was born during the 1940s in America. Practically, it's coming from the very vulnerable community, and even nowadays, even in the Barack Obama campaigns, you might heard that this method of community organizing, especially in the black communities, is very much used, but it's not limited. It's only for vulnerable groups. So allies and coalition is built with everyone. So I would just say that I would just to make it interactive. This, as we are small groups, and one of the principles of community organizing, that it cannot be learned practically by in the theory. So it needs practice. It needs a lot of dedication, and somehow the community organizers themselves, they say that the people should be suburb and practically to look to goals that they wish to happen. And talking about the community organizing, so I would just quickly ask you to make a brainstorming practically. What are the first thing and first association to your mind that when you're gonna hear these terms community organized? Just briefly and freely.
For some reason, the first word that came in mind was poverty, like poor communities.
So I will just write the brainstorming in the chat. Okay. Hi, Boyka. Okay. Benedetta, so we are small group, and sorry to impose you in such conversation, but I guess one of the advantage of these small groups is to have a direct communication and very free one. So we are not in school, so this is very informal learning and sharing more experience. So please go ahead. I mean, there is no incorrect answers.
I'm sorry, I need to ask you to repeat the question because I couldn't hear very well.
What is the assumptions? What are the first things of that come to your mind when you heard the terminology of community organizing? So it's how you're gonna break down this terminology of community organizing. What is about?
I added power building in the chat.
Power building, exactly.
Maybe sociality.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so my brain is very contaminated with the actual terminology connected to it, but I will say another one. I think the first word that comes to my mind is difficult.
Difficulty, okay.
I'm writing too, Sanad, to facilitate you.
Okay, thank you. So the association is difficulty, exactly. Thank you very much. Resilience, of course. So if I can just continue and build upon you practically of your contribution. So community, it's, I mean, the first association practically is of a lot of people or more people, or it can be also on micro level, but also it can be it can go even beyond the street, beyond the buildings that we are living in, beyond the city, and so on. So this is community. So it associates us to, as I said, to the local, to the very micro region, to our local area. And organizing, community organizing, I mean, it means that people stand for same goal, for same values, for same issue and same problems. So, and I will just make a clear differentiation about the problems and the issues. When the problem practically became an issue. So I can share my personal experience. So I'm living in Germany, right? Not that long, and I'm not that fluent in German. So I can define it as my personal problem, right? So it's very personal. But what can be an issue? So problem transferring to an issue, it can be, for example, 80% of the migrants in Germany are not fluent in German, are not fluent in German language, right? And then becomes an issue to certain community. So it's affect a lot of people. So I will just break it even more, and I would like to share also some example from your local community. If you can share, for example, some community issues, as we said, not a personal problem, but rather than an issue that can affect probably. Let's start from the building that you are living in, for example, and then go to the same street, and then, you know, a bit broader, maybe to the district, a city, and so on. What problems do you see in your local area? It can be.
I have a very practical problem in
Yes.
mind.
Yes.
Actually, there is a demonstration later on today. Maybe you could give us an insight on how to resolve this, or go around it, or make it turn it into an issue. There is a state decision to create a metro station in our very local small neighborhood, on the only square available for citizens, for thousands of citizens in this small part of land. And yes, there is, of course, the big majority of people are negative to such a prospect. And yes, we are trying to organize, let's say.
Okay. So thank you very much, Nikos, for mentioning this case. So we should be aware that there are always pros and cons. So against and people who will go for a certain idea. So a metro, it seems to be a public interest of many people, but in this case, so a certain people practically consider that it is a affiliation of their rights. So they are practically against. They do not support this building of metro station for some reason. Thank you very much. So Benedetta or Boroka or Mirandi, if you can also come up with some very local problem, and think, I would just encourage you to think from your very micro area of your building or the house where you are living, from the street and going beyond. Just few practical examples.
For example, where I live, a problem is, for example, public transport, because it is not quite well organized to allow people not to be very pushed all together, for example, in a bus or in trains. So that's quite a difficult problem, most of all after the beginning of the pandemic. And maybe another problem would be the fact that they usually build the infrastructures very slowly. They take a very long time sometimes to build them, and yeah, that's.
Thank you, Benedita, for sharing this problem with the overcrowded buses and public transportation practically, so people cannot breathe practically in the buses and metros. Okay, so I would just would like to build a bit on these cases what Benedita practically just shared now. So we should be very realistic if we this is a problem, and we should look at in the root of the causes. What causes practically this problem, and is it sortable? Should be can be found some solution practically. So always as a community organizer they are lead practically the problem should be winnable. Okay, so they're gonna spend time, they will spend the campaigns and their engagement, and the problem should be, or the issue, practically more precisely said, should be winnable. Also, they should be reasonable, and it should be more or less cost effective. So if this problem of the overcrowded practically public transportation, is it winnable? Of course it is. So one of the solutions, how Benedita, can I just provoke you, if you've been in a position of decision makers, for example, how would you sort it out? What would you do for this issue?
Quite difficult to. I don't know. I don't know if I would like to change the schedule. I don't know if I would create a different trails for the buses and other stuff. I'm not an expert on this field, so it's quite difficult now to find a good solution.
Okay, but you mentioned, so one of the solution is to change practically the schedule, right? So maybe more buses to be more on this and more frequently to operate these buses. One of the solution. So another solution practically, what can be alternative lines, for example, to use or an alternative transport, metro and so on. But you point out very important things. So you said unconsciously, so I don't know, I'm not sure what is the solution. So this brings us, before going to the solution, so we need to research the issue, right? So a proper research of the issue will lead us to close to the change we wanna see it, right? So if we are just demonstrating or raising up our voices, and we do not offer a solution, so imagine on the side from the police, from the decision maker, how they will understand us. So it means that always as we see some community issue, so it seems that we are also proposing a solution. We have alternative solution that it is up to decision makers to analyze it practically, and if there is a way, so they can implement it. And it's called also in this advocacy theory a bottom-up approach. A bottom-up means ordinary people on the daily, coming from the daily sacrifice of the ordinary people, and then to raise up their voices and come to the taken without any consultation. Practically, they make any policies. Okay, so also planned some case studies to share it, but I will so if we are very small group, so maybe we can also continue to watch one video. It's around 15 minutes, and then I have very practical example of community organizing that we achieve. Nikos, if you also agree, so maybe the video is very motivation one. So it's talking about the importance of story, of using of personal story in community organizing. It's around 15 minutes, and then I have to present one very concrete community organizing campaigns.
I'm just a little bit worried that 15 minutes a bit lot.
Yes.
And we are making these sessions quite short, like 45 minutes overall.
Okay.
It is fine for me. I don't know what do the rest think. It's for me. It's fine either way.
I can share, I mean, the YouTube channel, and you can also watch it. And through the presentation of the very concrete community organizing campaign we did, I think that it's going to be much clearer rather than listening to the video. So if you agree, of course, so I can also share the link in the chat, and they go directly to the very concrete community organizing. So Nikos, I need to share my screen.
I think I have entitled you to screen sharing. Multiple participants can share at the same time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, sorry, I need to close this. It wasn't meant. Do you see my screen?
We see your screen, yes.
Okay.
A few people with colors and the Japanese sun on them.
Okay, okay. So I would like to present you a very concrete activity we did using the community organizing. It happened in our city in Macedonia, like few years ago. And what we started with, so we branded ourselves practically. We created a logo. We gave a name for our groups. It is in Roma language Parvalipe, which means richness. And the first thing, practically, we did a training course. But let me give a bit context, practically, what was the community organizing campaign about. So it was addressed at local issues faced by Roma vulnerable ghettos, I will say. So mostly we addressed infrastructures problem like asphalting, like waters. In few Roma communities, there were no running water supplies. There were no drinkable water, for example. And many other infrastructure issues that practically the local authorities, the local municipality is charged of. So the things, as we saw that it can work out, we created a group of young Roma people, very dedicated and motivated practically to bring a social change into their local community. And
Senat, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Maybe you will elaborate on that further, but how did you choose the participants?
Yes.
Many times this is a very crucial aspect.
Yes, I will come back.
Oh, okay.
So how we got to the point? So we detect practically the issues. So in several cities, for example, in Macedonia, as I was saying, Roma ghettos, they were lacking of basic infrastructural things. And then we came out that we should organize our communities. And this is a point where Nico raised it up, a very important one, how we choose the right people and future community organizers. So I have to be honest that we open a call. Okay, so we describe it very well, very practically and very clearly what we are expecting and what will be their achievements, their engagements in the future. So it was not only a week training course, but practically it was just capacity building for future activities. And we described that in the years to come, practically they will be engaged. And we got around 25 motivated young people. And I guess it's not that difficult. I mean, coming from this vulnerable community, when you see every day practically social and injustice, it's not that difficult to mobilize the community. So we noticed it even that time that young people, especially, I mean, young people with are great motivated to stand up and to talk on behalf of their community, practically to help to some of the issues to get solved. And here we had a very good trainer. He came from America, very capable and knowledgeable about the training, and practically we learned the community organizing as a concept during the 1 week training. And then practically after the training course in the 1 year, so we raised up different campaigns at local level. So we had like 4 or 5 KELs, local KELs, 4 or 5 people of local community organizer. For example, so in this town, so you see that there is no asphalt. There is no asphalt in this community. And with our advocacy and with our community organizing, you see the results. 550 meters. So we successfully advocate this community to get the asphalt. And if I can also mention, it was very cost effective, the project, because only with this initiative, so the project was, I don't know, around 30,000 euro, and the municipality only this road, so they invested around 800,000 euro. And it was not, it was not easy process, I would say. So you can imagine that young people coming back from the training, they needed some time practically to practice their skills and their advocacy things. But in the end, so we successfully managed to get this role, thanks of the mayor, of course. This is another town, so also around 100 houses, around 100 of families. They face the danger of the landmark slide, and you never know, either in the any time practically can happen a disaster. So what we asked for is for here protection wall practically to stop the land to slide. And this is, I guess, still not solved problem. So although we used a lot of tools, so we did a petition, we blocked practically the local authorities administration, we called every single day on the phone, we made even an exhibition in front of the municipality, an exhibition of the circumstances. So we used also creative methods. We played theater, how it's look like to live practically in a danger, but we use media as well. And unfortunately in this town, so I think that still this issue is not solved out. So you see, for example, another example here in another town. So with these local groups, so we raised the issue of begging Roma children begging on the street, right? And we invited practically in a plenary institution of church. It was a very crowded event. So all the institutions that deal with this problem, they were practically present in this event, and we raised up the issue. So the social welfare and the social workers, they became more careful. They practically came with some incentives, and I think that most of the children that time begging on the street were taken into social care. So again, this is also, we use it at TV, so very local and national TV, and we practically we make it the problem even bigger. So we try to find allies, try to build a coalition, try to find supporters even beyond our community. So to say that it's not only the community problem, but also it's a society. It's good beyond a certain community. And if you can see that in so we, after the community organizing, so we did a lot of face-to-face. We went to the community. We knock on the on the doors of the people. We explain it that we want to organize ourselves in order to practically to address their local problems. And this was the final event practically. So all the politicians, this is the mayor, the media practically, and we got a promise from the mayor in front of on the television that the local problems that were raised in the town is going to be solved. And it really happens. Practically after a month, several streets, several running water supplies were brought in the community, and so on. So also I would just want to finish with this last activity. So this is another town. So we demand for a local sport terrain in nearby the Roma community, of course. And if I'm not mistaken, several jobs in the public servants, as there is in Macedonia a law that few minority representatives should be also employed in the public administration, and in that time there was none of the Roma community, and practically this was very good advocacy place practically to raise up our issue. And in this event also we invited international organization, and always our tendency was practically to get even more publicity on the local issue that we raised it up. So I think that this very practical example catch your attention, and you got some introductory knowledge about the community organizing. Of course, it should not be learned through presentation and so on, as the community organizers themselves, they are saying that the best way is the learning by doing. So to get involved in such community organizing campaigns is the most worth one. So if you have some question or some comments.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Boroka.
The first question I have is about the case that you presented. So I heard that you mentioned that in one of the cases, the mayor was also very supportive and declared publicly that will help the community. As far as I know, in community organizing, there is also this power assessment part, or like checking the interest of the different parties involved. So what was the interest of the mayor to support you in these efforts? What was his gain?
So practically, if I can now analyze his political position, so in the years, practically he was in the middle of his mandate. So 2 more years until the next local election, and of course, I mean, he wanted to show some activities done to this community. And we started practically, it never happens before. So practically we were in the beginning, so we raised up local issues. And after that, we were followed, and many other communities, many other ordinary people beyond our communities, our Roma communities, they also stand up raising different local issues. And I think that this is a cross-cutting point where local issues are going beyond any fragmentation, and so.
So these were points that connected, that united the communities, right? That they were important for everyone.
So this was case that I have to be honest, that we also approach through political parties. We in that town we had Roma councillor, very cooperative one. So we explained it that what is our tendency, that we are not political, we do not have political affiliation, for instance. And he understood us. Also, we went through all local councillors. I don't know if they are 15 or 20. So we invited them also face to face. We went to their open days meetings, and we raised it up practically the local issues. And the problem, I mean, the issue was very urgent. So the landslides was very, very real one. And people were living in danger. They couldn't even sleep. I mean, security was the question. But it wasn't case. I mean, in that town, for example, we succeed to achieve our goal. But in another 2 towns, so it went much harder, and I think that those local issues still they are not solved at all.
I have a couple of questions myself, again regarding the process, because I find it very interesting that you managed to find these very committed young persons who would run the campaigns. Very useful. But what they did was to welcome, Moffat. What they did was to just contact the decision makers, or did they also organize communities in a way? I mean, and okay, the first one, the communication with decision makers, I understand how it happens, but I think the second one is very, very crucial. How did they manage to involve communities if they did that?
Of course, if you would see in the plenary meetings, so all the events were crowded. Like we had minimum 30, 50 members of the community, and this was never the case before. I mean, or very in the beginning. So we use the technique face to face. So we spent several months practically, as I was explaining, that those young people who were trained in a week, So they didn't get directly to organize the community. So they took a few months, for example. So they approached every single one from the community. They knocked on the doors. They said simply, okay, we are trying to organize the community. So we see obvious problem in this area. I think that you're gonna support us if you want. So next Friday on so on. So we are organizing a plenary. If you want, we can meet. You can meet us in this location. And I have to admit that in the beginning, it wasn't that easy task. So we had, for example, from the beginning 1 or 5 people maximum. But for a time being, so as time was passing, so we got more and more supporters. So
one more thing, what do you think that motivated the youngsters? What was the milestone that made them be engaged?
The young people who try to organize and to take the leadership role and the active citizen to practice practically the active citizenship. As I was saying, it's not that difficult. I mean, if you see everyday people, everyday problems that people are facing with, it's not that difficult. I mean, to nurture practically and to direct their sacrificing on a organized way, I will say. So depends of the issue they are facing. The bigger issue, the easier the easier is to organize the people, right? But also we failed. I have to admit that many times we failed until we succeed, and we succeed in some places. In some places, it was waste of time, but at least I mean the streets that were asphalted, it's go beyond any financial support and so on. So it was around 800,000 euro invested thanks to our initiatives that time.
May I say something? So about the involvement, as far as I know, so they say in community organizing that if people don't come, you have the wrong cause, because it means like people would come when they know that what they do will make a change in their own life. So it was really clear that your life is on the stake, so you have to fight for it. If it's not the kind of cause that changes something, they will not come. So I mean, in this case, I guess when it's about so elementary things, it's also easy to find people who want change.
Sometimes, although we were trained and we passed through these all steps of the community organizing as a methodology, but sometimes we use it our guerrilla style. I will say so. We approach the community every single one, no matter when, no matter how, no matter what it will cost. So we are dealing with political issue. We were aware that it might be political obstruction on the other side as well. So even in our community, and we faced that. So there were also politically engaged party against us. But I mean, how to say, we overcome this problem. So in one places we got a success, and then we celebrate. We made it visible as most as possible. You know, we posted in the Facebook, we posted on the media, so people got motivated practically afterwards. And we need sometimes, you know, to establish on the ground a local structure to understand who we are, what we are stand for, and so on. It took us some months practically to brand us a bit.
It is definitely important that people know you. I mean, know you as a person or as a group. It is easier, I think, to involve, and this is why some local causes are in many ways easier to achieve or build a campaign around them.
Yes, and in that sense, I would say that it's very important to build a au- authentic, very original movement, very original stand up of the community. If you rely on something previous, or you want to and you want to continue with something, it's not going to work. So I would suggest that, so I'm not a perfect community organizer and so on. So I went in several campaigns and so on, but although I'm not the most relevant community organizing, but due to my experience, I would say that it's very important a coalition and supporters beyond the problem, beyond of your community, right? So just think, for example, if I can share a personal, a very micro problem from very actual one. So here in Germany, you know that we select the trash, and the trash from the food, the bio trash. Practically, we are supposed to throw it in a certain bins, right? And that bins nowadays is broken. It's broken. So we throw the bio in every single another bins, which is not correct, which is not, you know, polite, and so we can be also fined by the local authorities and so on. And this is very practical, and so it affect only these buildings. I don't know, 5-6 families. But if we can stand up and just to raise up our voice, so we can see that it goes beyond these buildings. I'm sure that several buildings in the city face the same problems. That the owners of the building practically do not respond on time, and then put in dangerous the tenants practically in the flats to be fined. And this is very sortable. It might came up, for example, with a certain policy. So we call it here in Germany Hausmeister. So regularly to check the bins, in which condition they are, and if there is broken, so they can be put some certain period to renew it. It's very sortable, I would say.
Thank you, Senad. Are there any more, any questions, comments, ideas that you wish to share? We are a little bit over time, so this is why I'm asking if there are further questions to be asked, or we should wrap it up.
I have a comment actually to what Senad said about him not being a most relevant community organizer. I think that's very false. I think just being involved and actually winning even campaign is amazing. And I wanted to say that I really like that you said, okay, we did this training and then we had these guerrilla methods of ours, because I feel that often people think that there's a method and then they apply and they have to go by the book, while you were the people on the ground recognizing what is the best way. So you said, okay, we have to take into consideration the context we are in because we know the best. So I think like just that very small thing, or sounds small, I think makes you very great organizers actually.
Thank you, Boruka. So it's very practical. I would say the community organizing, it's not relying or the very concrete steps that you should follow, like 1, 2, 3. So it's depends on the circumstances as you mentioned. So practically, a daily adjustment should be done.
So if there are any not further comments or questions.
Yes. So
yes, just I wanted to mention that these three very essential terms that Senat mentioned, winnable. I think this is question number one. Very, very important from experience. I'm mentioning this. Reasonable. Also, really important that because you need to communicate it with a bigger audience in order to turn a problem into an issue. And cost effective. I don't know about cost effective because we're not technocrats, or it's not. I don't know if it's our place to make such foresights. But anyway, it's also important that it makes sense in fiscal or financial terms as well.
So thank you very much. So I hope that practically I motivate you to search for more resources and to discover the community organizing as a methodology or as a way to bring a social change into the local community. I can also share some very nice resources. I will pass those resources to Nikos. So they are very good ones for further learning, self-learning.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Senat. Thank you everyone for joining. 2 weeks from now, we have the 5th session of Fridays for Advocacy with Marian Damos from the Romanian Youth Movement for Democracy. I hope we see you there or earlier than that. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a nice weekend.